All right, well, welcome everyone. It's just after 2 o'clock. So on behalf of the Tools for Life Learning Center at Loudoun Habitat for Humanity, I would like to welcome you to today's virtual workshop on post-COVID-19 financial recovery. My name is Amanda Bollig, and I'm the program's project specialist at Loudoun Habitat for Humanity. I oversee our home repair program as well as the Tools for Life Learning Center. We are going to jump right in today. So we just want to quickly talk about what our goals are from today's session. So first off, we're going to try to give you a little bit of information on the programs that are available in Loudoun County for you to hopefully help overcome some of those financial obstacles resulting from the COVID-19 pandemic. We are also going to help you assess your current financial situation and hopefully create a plan for you to get back on track financially. And then, of course, we're hoping that you'll walk away today with the ability to adapt your financial management strategy for when things hopefully get back to normal. So today we have with us Michael Butterfield. He works at Wells Fargo Bank as the affluent segment leader for Northern Virginia. In addition to that, Michael is actually a Loudoun Habitat for Humanity volunteer. He helps us out with our homeowner services team. He does some one-on-one mentoring for our future homeowners, as well as teaching some of our financial education classes. So thank you, Michael, for being here and for all the wonderful work that you do for Loudoun Habitat.
Thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Good. All right, so our agenda for today, we're going to start off with what is available in Loudoun County. We'll move into where are you right now? What is your current financial situation? And we will close it off with what do we do next when COVID-19 hopefully comes to an end. So our very first question, and I'm going to talk to this a little bit, and Michael, if you want to jump in, by all means do that. So what COVID-19 relief programs are available for us here in Loudoun County? So the first one we've got up on the screen today is the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance, and this actually comes to us through the CARES Act. This is unemployment assistance for individuals who don't meet those normal unemployment requirements. So if you're an independent contractor or self-employed, then this might be where you would fall in. We do have the website up for you as well as the phone number if you're curious about getting some more information about that. We also have up here for you the Loudoun County website, and they actually have an entire web page dedicated to COVID-19 assistance programs, and they have it broken up into some wonderful categories like food assistance, housing assistance, transportation, if you need assistance getting your medication delivered to your house. So they have some really great resources all listed on there for you, and I would encourage you to go check that out as well. The final two things you'll see on the screen are both information and referral phone numbers. So the first is through Loudoun County and the second is through Loudoun Cares. So this is a really great place to start if you're just not quite sure what assistance programs you might qualify for, what is out there that could help you. I would definitely encourage you to call either of those numbers, tell them a little bit about your story and situation, and they would be able to help connect you to the programs that we have here in Loudoun County. Michael, is there anything you'd like to add to this?
I would just like to say that Wells Fargo, and as I'm sure many other financial institutions around, they are aware that there's a pandemic going on, and they offer assistance in the form of some sort of forbearance or payment delay system. You would just have to go to your online banking in Wells Fargo's case and apply. But there are, with the other banks, I'm sure there's either a link on their website or a number that you can call to inquire about what programs they have available.
Thank you. That's some great information. I'm sure a lot of our people watching today will want to take advantage of that. All right, so Michael, I'm going to pass it off to you for the rest of the presentation.
All right. So I think the first thing you've got to do is really look at what your financial situation is today. And there are a couple of ways that you can evaluate your financial status. The first thing you want to start by doing is by looking at your assets and your income and really understanding what you have available to you and what you rely on a monthly basis. You then want to subtract your expenses, and that will, whether they be fixed expenses such as your mortgage or your recurring bills, or if they're variable expenses that may fluctuate on a month-to-month basis based on, the utility payment based in the summer, spring, winter, fall. Obviously, they vary a lot too. There's other expenses you may find that are more arbitrary, where they're things that you decide you need, and that would be something that you would assess on an as-needed basis. But those two things combined will help equal your financial status. So if we can go to the next slide. So a tool I like to recommend that we leverage is a personal cash flow worksheet. And this is an abbreviated version of it that you see on the screen, but there are, it's much more comprehensive, and we'll see that in a moment. So when you look at this, you've got a place for all the different sources of income you could have, whether it be salary, wages, whatever inflow you have. If it's from some sort of support mechanism, it's there as well. Figuring out what that looks like. How much are you bringing in? And then you can subtract from that all the outflows. As we alluded to earlier, you've got deductions that come out of your paycheck every check. You've got your fixed expenses, such as your mortgage, rent, those major expenses. And then you've got your other living expenses that maybe offer a little more variability. But once you have organized all those in one sheet, it'll allow you to look at what is your leftover cash flow. Are you running a surplus or a deficit? And then it gives you the tools you need to leverage that to help you come out of the pandemic and reestablish yourself and get yourself on more solid ground. So we'll go to the next slide. And that leads us to, what do we do when things get back to normal? When we're in a position where our income is more regular and we're trying to, whether it be, whether you're digging out of a hole or whether you're just trying to prepare for the next time, the first thing you want to do is figure out what you learned during this pandemic. What did it teach you about the most important things versus the wants versus the needs? What did you decide that you needed versus what is it that you wanted? And that will help you budget and get yourself on more solid footing. Then you've got to work out a plan to address the new debt gained during the pandemic. And there's really two ways of going about that. We have what they call the waterfall approach rather. And that is when you address the smallest debt, you take any extra income you have and you put it towards that smallest debt. So if assuming it's a $25 monthly payment, maybe you're doubling that and paying $50 a month. When you conquer the smallest debt, then you go to the next smallest debt and you take that 50 and you add that onto that regular payment. And that way you'll see quick wins. You'll get out of debt, relatively fast in terms of bill by bill. And, you have that sense of accomplishment knowing you did something and you succeeded. And that'll help go layer by layer by layer until you tackle the biggest bill that maybe you had during the pandemic. And the other way people look at it is sometimes it's pay down the highest interest rate first. And that's a great plan too. The challenge with that plan is it does take longer, takes more determination, but again, great accomplishment. We take that highest debt off the table and then you can focus on much more manageable, smaller debts. You'll find a lot of flexibility in your month-to-month income. And then once you're out of the income, once you've established your income, you want to make a plan for if something like this happens again or any financial emergency arises again. And generally, I would recommend if somebody has a 2-income family where both people are making approximately the same, that they set aside 3 months of income based on the amount of risk they're willing to tolerate. So figure out what your budget is and make sure you have at least 3 months saved up in a liquid account in case of emergency. If you're a single income earner supporting a family, you may want to consider 6 months income as in case of emergency, because again, you'll be the only one looking for work and you'll be the one that's trying to support a family during whatever the crisis that arises is. So that would be my recommendation if something like that can happen again. So let's go to the next slide.
All right, so we just want to sum up very briefly some of the things that we learned from Michael's presentation. We hope that you gained some information about some of the resources that are out there that you can take advantage of and how you can get connected to them. We hope that you will go back and use that cash flow worksheet that Michael quickly showed you. We did enter it in the chat box for you. It's a great way to review your current assets, income, expenses, and get a better understanding of what your current financial situation is. Until you understand where you are currently, it's going to be harder to move forward with that plan. And finally, we hope that you will take this time to reflect on the pandemic experience as an opportunity to learn and grow and improve on your financial situation. This way, like Michael said, if something like this were to ever happen again, we all might be just a little bit more prepared for that. If you have any questions for us, please go ahead and enter them into the chat box below. But Michael, we do have a couple of questions already for you. So the first one is, my family and I have a budget, but we still are not bringing in enough with the reduced work hours from COVID-19. Do you have any additional advice that you could give to us?
Ooh, That is a tough question because everybody's situation is different and it's really hard to judge. But I can tell you that realizing you don't have enough income to meet your monthly budget is an extremely frightening situation and something that has to be addressed. So I do have a couple of suggestions. Obviously, you're on a budget, and my first piece of advice is to look at that budget. Where can you reduce your expenses? And everybody will say, oh, I'm doing everything I can. But what I found when meeting with clients, there's always somewhere you can reduce your expenses. And maybe something as simple as adjusting your thermostat a couple of degrees one way or the other during the winter and the summer months to lower the expenses. It could be looking at your cell phone plan and seeing if there's a more economical plan that's available. It could be looking at your deductible for your insurance plans. The higher the deductible, the lower your monthly out payment is. Now, there's increased risk with that because if you do have an incident, you're going to have a higher deductible out-of-pocket expense. But if you're looking to maximize your cash flow, that would be one alternative. It could be carpooling to work. There's always a way, and you have to be creative and you have to think with an open mind of what could we do differently to help mitigate the expenses. The second thing I'd say is you may want to consider looking for a secondary source of income, whether that be a part-time job. But I would say if you do that, it's a short-term solution. You should not depend on your secondary income as a source of living. It should be while you address whatever that expense is that's making it untenable to live on your current budget and with your current income. You want to make sure that this is a temporary solution while you look for a full-time solution. That full-time solution could really take the place of a full-time job that maybe is in a different profession. If you don't have a high school degree or a college degree, it may be something that you consider as a way to increase your earning potential. But again, you have to decide if you go for another profession, you're not just chasing a dollar bill, but you're doing something that you really care about that also pays your bills. And lastly, I would say, once if you're still not making ends meet, you feel you have a good income, you got to go back to that first step and look at that budget and be realistic about your wants versus your needs and establish that. But that would be my advice for somebody that's running into that situation.
Great, thank you, Michael. We do have one other question for you. This comes from someone who was collecting unemployment during COVID. So they say, what should I plan to set aside if I collected unemployment during COVID-19, but I did not have the taxes taken out?
All right. Well, my first advice is get the taxes taken out, always if you're collecting a benefit like that. But I see the thought process is this is a short-term solution. I need it to bridge this time over. And normally with unemployment being at a couple of $100s a month, that would be the solution that makes sense. When you add the extra stimulus that they added to unemployment during this pandemic, the taxes can really add up. So you have a couple of options. One, you can start paying on a quarterly basis an estimated income tax, assuming you have the availability. Two, you can put the money in a savings account on your payday through an automatic transfer. So you have a savings account that's established that when the tax bill comes, I have it to pay. And the last thing you could do is stuff it in a jar or a mattress or whatever you need to do. But the tax bill is something that you take really seriously. So I would recommend, if you're wondering about your particular tax bracket, to go to the irs.gov to look at where the tax brackets fall based on income. But I do have some good news for you. Virginia does not charge state income tax on unemployment benefits. So you don't have to worry about that 8% or so of state taxes.
Great, thank you, Michael. Do you have any additional advice you'd like to give to anybody that might be watching today if they're in a difficult financial situation right now?
Sure. I saw a question in the chat earlier about the use of the cash flow form use and how detailed do you need to be when you're filling that out. I would recommend you're as detailed as possible, because what it looks like it may only be $5 for a Starbucks coffee, or if it looks like a Chick-fil-A meal a couple of times a week or whatever, those expenses really add up. And those are the variable expenses where you can do the most good in terms of helping yourself. Because when you're budgeting, you have to prioritize with that. You have to cover your shelter, your health, and your utilities. Those are the things you want to make sure are the first things off your plate. And after that, that's where you run into the play of where can I look for cash opportunities to increase my flow. And again, it's wants versus needs. Do you need Starbucks 4 times a week? Probably not. But you might need coffee, but there's more economical ways of getting coffee than going to Starbucks. So I would say as detailed as you can be when you're doing it, because the more detailed you are, the more you can really identify opportunities to maybe cut back and save some income on a monthly basis.
Great, thank you. All right, everybody. Well, thank you for joining us today. If you want to learn more about Loudoun Habitat for Humanity and the Tools for Life Learning Center, I would welcome you to go to our website, loudounhabitat.org/toolsforlife. We have a bunch of upcoming virtual workshops on the website that you can go ahead and register for. We also have past virtual workshops on there that you can go back and watch as well. We list everything from home maintenance to home ownership, and again, more stuff just like this with talking about financial education and things like that. Our next virtual workshop is going to be November 5th. We're going to be discussing how to winterize your home and create some comfort and efficiency in your home. Our guest speaker is going to be Justin Dobson from Comp Energy. We're very excited to have him. So again, thank you all for joining us today. Michael, thank you for your wonderful presentation, and we hope to see you all again soon.
All right. It's been my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.